Hey guys, how's it going? Ben with Chegg Tutors here, and today we're going to go over the statistics concept of forecasting. So, in this video, we're going to define what forecasting is. Then we're going to walk through some examples to help you guys get familiar with this kind of concept. So, forecasting in statistics is also known as prediction, and it's the use of statistical models to predict future outcomes. So the most commonly used model and the easiest is linear regression, and linear regression is often used for this kind of forecasting. So as you might recall, in linear regression you have a set of data points such as here, and then you have a least square regression line or the line of best fit, so something like this that has the least squares distance between all the points. And in normal linear regression, you use this least square regression line in order to predict values that are within the bounds of your data set. Usually you're not supposed to go outside the bounds of your data set because that would be extrapolating. However, in the case of forecasting, we're using linear regression models to do exactly this. We want to predict what happens outside of the model beyond. So usually forecasting is used in cases of predicting future outcomes in the sense that it's several months or weeks ahead in some kind of time value. So a real life example of this kind of thing is something along the lines of predicting the value of a stock. So tracking the value of stock through time and then using that least square regression line to predict a future value. So this type of forecasting is commonly used in financial markets, and it's pretty simple, and it's very similar to how you would use a normal least square regression line to predict values. So here, let's say our x value is time. So on our x-axis we have time in months, or let's say weeks, time in weeks. And our y-axis we have the dollar value in value of, let's say millions, why not? So this graph plots the time. So it's the week number versus the value of the stock in that particular week. So we can see a general increase in the stock value, and we can write out the equation of this regression line as y equals, let's just say something along the lines of 1.05 x plus 2.5. So for every successive week that goes by, the stock value increases by a proportion of 1.05. And yeah, so normally we'd be able to use this model to predict values within the week numbers of the data set. But let's say we wanted to sort of guess what happens in the future. So what happens over here? What happens in these weeks? Well, we can use this linear regression model in order to predict what's going to happen to that stock value in the successive weeks, and then in a real life scenario such as this one, we can use this information to make financially sound decisions about how to invest in the stock. So let's say that this last data point corresponds to week like 10, but we want to know what happens at week 15. So let's say you're a financial analyst and your boss wants you to predict, based on the previous data set, what's going to happen to the price of the stock in week 15. So you use your handy dandy linear regression model, and you're going to plug in this 15 for your x. Oh, this is supposed to be y hat. So your predicted stock value is going to be equal to 1.05 times your week value, which is 15, plus 2.5. So pull out a calculator, 15 times 1.05, add a 2.5, and you get 18.25. So you have a predicted value of $18.25 million for this stock at week 15. So then you can tell this to your boss, and using this information, your company can then decide whether or not it's worth it to invest in this company or not. So this is kind of a basic overview of how linear regression models are used in prediction and forecasting. Usually in this kind of forecasting, the linear regression model is only used as a beginning, because as you can imagine, a lot of values that you want to predict future values of in situations like this don't always exactly follow this kind of simple linear pattern. So the linear regression line is used as kind of like a baseline, and then they build more complex models on top of that. But it's very likely that you won't have to use those kinds of complex models in any kind of intro statistics classes. So this idea of forecasting is generally just an extension off of our linear regression ideas. So as long as you guys are sound on using those predicted y values that we've talked about before and plugging in x values to look into the future, you should be fine. So those are the basics of using forecasting statistics in order to look at real-world scenarios. Hopefully you feel comfortable about tackling these kinds of real-world problems using these kinds of linear regression models. And yeah, that's it.